What's up, Red Tree Church? I wanted to drop us a quick devotional video this week. I've been reading through Mark in my personal study and reading time, and as these new restrictions kind of came through this week, I was drawn back to a specific story I read recently, and I thought it would just be good to share it together as a church. This is from Mark chapter 1. It says this. And a leper came to him, imploring him, and kneeling, said to him, "If you will, you can make me clean." Moved by pity, he stretched out his hand and touched him, and said to him, "I will be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him, and he was made clean. And Jesus sternly charged him and sent him away at once, and said to him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priests, and offer for your cleansing what Moses commanded for a proof to them." And when he went out and began to talk freely about it and to spread the news, Jesus could no longer openly enter a town, but was out in desolate places, and people were coming to him from every quarter. This is a short little story from right at the beginning of the Gospel Mark, right near the beginning of Jesus' ministry, and it's just a wonderful text. What I love about this text is its simplistic beauty. Now, really quick, I'm just going to go through this, just a couple quick thoughts. If you don't know this, leprosy was a super dangerous kind of family of diseases centered around skin and nerve damage that was really common in this day. In fact, the Torah actually specifically gives all sorts of what we would call, right, like public health regulations to protect the community from these specific diseases. And the way this kind of worked out is that anyone with leprosy was separated from the rest of the community. They were isolated until they healed. Now, unfortunately, many forms of leprosy simply wouldn't heal. The treatments didn't exist. And these poor victims would live out literally the rest of their lives in isolation. Not allowed to be around their families, not allowed to touch or to be touched. And it actually got more intense than that. But for our purposes, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about in this text a man who had leprosy, who was completely cut off and isolated from the world as he knew it. Now look, I get it, right? Like, I'm not comparing our current relatively mild social restrictions to the immense suffering of these real people whose entire lives were oftentimes ruined by a disease for which there was no treatment, right? I'm not trying to equate the two, but I do think there's enough connection that it's worth us just considering for a moment. You see, the suffering of the leper was not just physical. It was also deeply psychological and emotional and spiritual. I mean, think about it, right? They were cut off from their family, from their friends, and from their faith. They could not go home. They could not go out. They could not go to work. And they couldn't even worship. They were incredibly alone. So when Jesus heals this man, he doesn't just heal his physical suffering, although he does this. You notice in the text, he also touches him. I love this. I love this image. I love what this text gives us. See, this guy, he should have never even approached Jesus. What he did was literally illegal in Judea in this day, but he is desperate. And look at what he actually says to Jesus. "If you are willing, you can make me clean." See, this man had no doubts about Jesus' power. He knew Jesus' power. He was questioning his worth to actually receive Jesus' power and ministry. And Jesus' response is so beautiful. "I am willing. Be clean." And then he touches him. He touched him. I mean, think about this, right? Who knows how many months or years it's been since a human being touched this man? Jesus met the needs of his whole person. He healed him. He connected with him. He gave him dignity and soul care. What an amazing story. So let me give just a quick thought for us today here right now. As you think through your life for the next several weeks and gosh, maybe even months, we will unavoidably be more isolated than we normally are. We'll see less people. In St. Louis County, you're being asked to put together your social bubble, right? The folk that you're going to spend time with. And this is all fine and good. We should do that. We should do what we can to love our neighbor, to serve our community. But I want to ask you guys, and I'm really serious when I say this, we should also remember that there is real suffering going on around us right now. You know, when we hear about those who are literally physically ill, who are being affected by this virus, we should take a cue from Jesus and we should pray for their healing. And not just that, we should pray for those people we know who are working in medical world right now, who are stressed and overworked and worried. But let us also, beyond just this immediate kind of low-hanging fruit of praying for health and protection and healing for those we know in our lives, let us also maybe consider those in our circle who are experiencing more loneliness and isolation than is good for the human soul. How can you help other people, your neighbors, your friends, your family, feel seen, feel known? Who do you need to intentionally include in your bubble? I love that idea. To me, it's amazing that this is what we're being asked to do, is to intentionally think through a group of people whom we're going to stay connected with and we're going to stay talking to and meeting with and all those things. Who needs to be in your bubble? See, this is just as much modeling Jesus as is praying for the sick. This is about loving people and meeting them in their real needs. Guys, we need each other. Look, we're going to do what is necessary here at Red Tree to be together. We're going to gather and worship and pray and connect in whatever ways we can while still honoring the reality of the present situation. It'll be less convenient, right? It'll be harder, but it is so important. It is such a part of what it means to be the church, to come together, to connect, to love each other. So let's do this. Let's commit to this. Let's seek to model the ministry of our Savior in the ways that we love each other in the coming days and weeks. You probably know some people who right now, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, they are that leper right now, who just feel alone and isolated. And by the way, if that's you, if you're feeling like the leper right now, please reach out. Let your pastors know, let your GC know, let your church know where your heart is at, so that all of us can come together and seek to be Jesus to one another. Let's be like our Savior. Let's seek in this time, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, to do what is necessary to be together and to care for each other. I'm talking too long at this point, but that's my thought for today. It's my thought for this week. Jesus reached out and touched the leper. He made a connection to someone who felt really alone. And we have an opportunity in this season to do the same. I love you guys. I love you, church. Such an honor to be your pastor. Hopefully, I will see you later this week in whatever ways we can do that, whether it's in person or digitally. Talk to you soon.